at the London Design Summit, Susan Knof, welcome to you.
Thank you.
The apartment we're talking about is called Penthouse on the Park, and this is your project. So where's the park?
The park is in central Sofia in Bulgaria.
Okay, and your task, of course, was to do the design. So describe the project for me.
The project was brought to me by a former client, and it is, I say penthouse, but it's actually not the top floor. What the client wanted to do was take two existing apartments and essentially make a penthouse by merging the two. And that's basically what we did. It was, I'd say, taking down walls, but we were able to get into the project a little bit before that had happened. So we had a lot of existing elements that we had to deal with, i.e. plumbing stacks. You know, the building was coordinated to be separate apartments. So how do we merge that and make a layout that works, that, you know, without being able to move a lot of the initial programming elements that would affect the building, the floor above and below? How do we make that happen? And we wanted to keep it really open. You know, the building had floor-to-ceiling glazing, and that's really the feature. So making the outside feature of the inside, and trying to figure out a way to go about doing that.
Okay, so it's a pretty big challenge for you from a design perspective as well. Not only that, but it's, you know, it's somewhere else. You know, it's a bit of a distance you have to cover too.
Yeah,
so describe a bit about sort of dealing with a lot of the different elements, not so much the look and the feel of the place, but how you actually managed a project like this.
Yeah, good question. That was at first the hardest part. You know, it was how do you work with this team that, you know, may think differently than you, may design differently than you, that, you know, uses a different currency, different language. I don't speak Bulgarian. Like, how's this going to happen? And I chose to think about the similarities rather than differences, and how do we work? And as designers, we do all work the same, and, you know, we have one thing that's in common, and that's a pen. And, you know, and that's how we began to communicate. We stopped sort of using words. It was a bit like, I don't know, I felt like Colin Firth in Love Actually. It was, you know, we're just sort of not knowing what each other was saying, but being able to just communicate with the pen and kind of sort of cross those boundaries. It was, you know, scary at first, because architecture and design is about detail, and getting it right is about knowing exactly what you're saying and doing, and specifications, and, you know, reading some that came through in Bulgarian. But we were able to do it from different areas, you know, with drawing. You know, it was technology.
And that's how you communicated with the client, really, using a pen.
I mean, in person, because you don't have time to hash everything out on a computer and bring it back and draw it up and detail it, and you don't necessarily always have that time. So as much as technology helped in using, you know, currency converter and metric to inches when we were buying things from New York, and all the logistics going through, but really it was about similarities and simplicity and communication through drawing, through a line.
And motivating the client and keeping them focused again through the entire project?
The clients are pretty great, and they like, you know, I think it's a bit of a hobby for them as well. They like the process, and they've seen it before. So, of course, there's that moment in every project where you've asked them for money, or the contractors asked for money, they're buying the materials, they've approved design concepts and sketches, but they're not real yet. You know, it's just ideas, and it's sketches by hand, you know, in different language, and you have to just have a lot of faith. There's that point where you just go, I think it's going to work. It's going to work. I know it's going to work. Your
organisation, your firm, I suppose, Susan Knof Design, what is it that you had to do in order to sort of accelerate the goals of your own firm in order to achieve this type of project in comparison to other things that you've done?
Well, I'd say the vision when I set up my company was to try to keep a small team and keep it, you know, close to heart, where everyone can be really engaged in it. But how do you do that when you're working on projects internationally? You start to need other teams, and you start to need to, in anything in design, you need to collaborate. So the vision was to have teams abroad when I got a project abroad. So when something came up internationally, to look for the team there that would help support the team locally, and always to have the core team in London. And so by doing that, when I went to Bulgaria, I was in charge of selecting, you know, the lighting designer, the local building architect, you know, essentially the whole team. And it was a hard process, but I basically went with, you know, who showed passion, who showed that they really wanted to do this project, who saw the challenges but actually were inspired by them. And, you know, that's what made it fun and exciting, and propels me to be able to do projects in other locations with the same sort of philosophy.
What is it that this location allowed you to do that you couldn't have achieved? I know you said you were from New York, or even here in London, that this place allowed you to do.
Design from abroad. I mean, I've done it before, working for other firms, but large organizations had satellite offices. They had all the framework. I had just set up my company, and this is the first job. I wasn't expecting, a project in a foreign country, different language, different currency, all these additional stresses when you're just learning how to also be an accountant, also be, an IT person, also be running a company, inspiring a team, wearing many hats. And then that just gave me about 5 more that I had to put on. But, dive in the deep end, I say.
You achieved it. You did well.
Thank you.
What's the place like?
Serene, actually. It's really nice. The beauty of it in London, I love properties in London. You get so much detail and history. There wasn't history in the existing building because it's a new build, so you didn't have to coordinate old with new. It really was a clean palette, which was quite fun, a little bit refreshing and different, and just beautiful, beautiful views, and really changing of seasons, strong seasons there. And as you walk into the apartment, you see the mountains across. So it was really fun to keep the open space fluid and moving and allow the daylight just to kind of give you the rhythm inside the space. That's what's creating the energy. That's what's creating the feel of it. So,
are you going to move over there?
It's a lot less expensive. I pondered it, but I don't think so.
Well, it sounds fantastic. Thank you so much, Susan. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.